Have you ever gotten to a time in your life where you're just so fucking blatantly tired of yourself? And this is not in a way of thinking that you're tired of life or you want to give up. It's more of the fact that you're tired of falling for the same tricks and games. You're tired of tolerating certain behaviors of people. You're tired of repeating patterns that make you recognize why I keep attracting the same people in friendships and relationships. Why is it that I'm still being treated this way towards my family and even treating myself this way? If you ever get to a point where you get so tired of yourself, it's because you're ready to overcome temptation. And little do we know, temptation is just a luring of us becoming attracted to something that does not serve us, but it serves our wounds. So here's the crazy thing. What if I told you that when you get this way, you want to overcome temptation? Most of us think that discipline is hard. But what if I told you discipline is very easy once you start to understand why you have particular temptations that are guiding you away towards the path you really want to follow? So stay tuned to the very end, because I will definitely explain myself and how to understand how to overcome temptation and realizing how easy discipline really is. What is gooch, beautiful beings? Welcome back, AwakenOnes, on another episode on Embracing Essential Series with your homegirl, Brittany Fontanez. If you're new to this channel, so glad to have you here. And if you've been on this journey with me so far, only love, gang, you know who you is. Other than that, beautiful beings, please do me a huge favor. I would really appreciate it, is that hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and hit that notification button. Make sure to hit the notification button so you will be notified of when I post videos. Usually it's the beginning of the week and the end of the week. But other than that, you guys, go check out in the description box how to connect with me, to see my services I render, the merch that I create, my Etsy shop, and also follow us, meaning me and my homegirl, on Spotify with our podcast, Mystifying Reality, where we dive deep into certain topics that people don't want to talk about, but are needed to be talked about. So in that, beautiful being, so glad to have you here. I am an energetic activator here to assist you to awaken the things you have yet to see for your highest good and to awaken to your truth. Now, let's get into how to overcome temptation and realizing that discipline is very easy. Now, when I said in the beginning that the reason why a lot of us are tempted by a lot of particular things in life, and this is not just about sex, drugs, alcohol. This really is talking towards food, ways of thinking, self-doubt, suffering, victimization, lack of accountability, not wanting to see the parts of ourselves that are actually ruling us into the point of damnation and not serving our soul. And that is the part of us where we feed into instant gratification and what our ego wants, because we always want to feel good. But what if I told you that we're only being attracted to temptation because we're operating out of wounds? We're tempted by things that feel good to us and seem good to the eye is because we want instant gratification. And when we soothe ourselves with particular coping mechanisms that teach us how to calm down, we get stuck in this toxic pattern that makes us recognize where we end up becoming tired of our own selves, why we get tired of tolerating people treating us this way, why we get tired of allowing ourselves to be naive. We get tired of always suffering, of always worrying, of always just being in that scarcity mindset of fearing that, damn, I'm not going to get this money. This is not going to help me. I can't pay this bill. I don't know how I'm going to change my life. I don't know how I'm going to make this business. I don't know how to stop being a victim. I don't know how to stop feeling sad or depressed. I get it. I get it. Everything I'm sharing with you in today's video, I've been through it. I still go through it. But the more that I start to see these moments of where I'm getting tired of my own patterns, it helps me create more momentum to turning my pain into power. Now, when I said that a lot of us are only operating out of wounds because we're always trying to soothe ourselves and calm ourselves, what I mean by we act out of wounds, little do we know, when we are not clear on what we want, and we don't know who we are, and we don't do the inner deep dive to understand ourselves on an immense level, because a lot of us want to stay on the surface, because when we're on the surface, we don't need to go in the depths of the oceans of our own psyche and to see that we stay on the surface level because we don't want to see the pain that we're holding on to. Most people want to immediately feel good. And this is why a lot of people don't want to do the inner work, is because when they have to tap into those good emotions, you first have to go through the barriers that are creating the resistance towards those good emotions. And that is the triggers. That is the trauma. That is the wounding. That is the anger. That is the sadness. We were really taught how to demonize emotions, when emotions are indicators that something is not right within ourselves. And we have to have compassion for how we feel. But when we are not allowing ourselves to feel, this is where energy gets suppressed within the body, and that suppression ripples out into the ethers, into different ways that don't serve us. And this is how we can create toxic habits, coping mechanisms to toxic behavior patterns. So as I say all this, the reason why this leads into temptation and recognizing how discipline is easy is because we have temptations of feeding our wounds and running away from them. And when we end up getting tired of ourselves, it just means that we're tired of playing this character. Like even Jim Carrey says, he says, depression is the avatar that is tired of playing a character. When we get tired of our own ways of thinking, our own ways of being, our own ways of attracting and acting, is because we're ready for something new. And when we try to strive for something new, there always seems like temptation gets in the way. And it's because, little do we know, temptation is not here for you to overindulge and to feed your ego and to feed that void. Temptation is really here to teach you, how much do you want change? How much do you really want to better yourself? How much do you really want more? How much do you really want to overcome self-doubt, self-neglect, worry about money, not believing in magic, not believing in miracles, not believing in the higher power has your back? How much do you want the shift, that you're willing to see that temptation is not here for you to soothe yourselves? They're here to teach you what it is you're running away from, and learn how to soothe yourself in a more healthy perspective. And this is where I say discipline is easy, because a lot of people think discipline is hard. A lot of people think change is hard. Change and discipline is only hard because you don't want it bad enough. It's only hard when you really don't want to change. It's only hard when you really are comfortable in your stagnation, victimization, lack of accountability, running away through drugs, through sex, through alcohol, through always having to be around people because you can't be by yourself, So change and discipline is only hard if you don't really want shift. If you really don't want change. For instance, for me, I started to learn that when I get like this and temptation is just coming at me left and right, when I really am focused on a goal, focused on myself, and temptation is coming at me, I used to criticize myself when I fall back into the temptation. And we have to recognize that when we fall back into temptations, doesn't mean we should demonize ourselves. We just got to stop judging ourselves because we were unconscious of what we knew was not good for us. And we have to make bad decisions to learn from that experience in order to make better decisions. So it just means you have deeper layers to heal. But when it comes to making changes and actually requiring discipline within those changes, we should stop judging ourselves for being unconscious of what we did not know was not good for us. Because a lot of us think it's normal and it's familiar to have certain toxic coping mechanisms, to act a certain way, to be a certain way, because it was engulfed into their brains as a young child. So we think it's normal. Like, for example, some people think that as a kid it was normal for them to be abused and to be neglected, and when you get older and you hear your friends say, oh, that doesn't sound too good, you start to recognize a different perspective of what you went through and realize, wow, maybe that was not good for me, maybe how my parents treated me was not good for me, you know? So we're so familiarized with pain, with suffering, with victimization, with running away, with lack of accountability, always soothing ourselves because we think that's normal. But when we get to a point where we get tired of that old version of ourselves, this is where we have to understand discipline can become easy and change can become easy if only we really truly want it. But that requires us not judging the unconscious part of ourselves that didn't know at the time what they were doing was out of wounding, not out of need. Because we think we need these things, but little do we know it's really our wounds thinking that we need these things in order for that comfortability to remain the same. But when I've learned this, I started to realize that the dark emotions as in anger, as in sadness, I love being sad now. I don't demonize it. I don't demonize being angry anymore, because I realize these dark emotions are really meant to be transmuted. Little do we know, anger, a lot of people use alcohol, abuse it because they're full of anger and rage. But little do we know, when we try to run away from that emotion, we're not allowing what anger is trying to teach us. And little do we know, anger is really trying to help us recognize where is it that we're tolerating shit that is hurting our souls. And little do we know, sadness is not something we should run away from. This is why we eat a lot or eat a lot of sweets, because we're feeling sad and we want to run away from that emotion. But instead of running away from it and feeling it, little do we know, sadness really teaches us how much resentment and heartbreak our heart is still holding on to, that we need to give compassion to the part of ourselves that were hurt at that moment of that experience. And little do we know, a lot of us, we fall into temptations because we keep replaying past experiences, and we end up reliving that experience at that time. It doesn't matter if you're 23 years old. If an experience happened to you when you were 10 years old and you keep replaying that, you end up becoming that child in that experience again at the age of 23. And in feeling that emotion and feeling that trauma, reliving it, all of a sudden you want to reach for things in the outside world to soothe you so you don't have to face it. But when we do that, when we run away from that experience, it's not here to traumatize us, it's here to teach us how to overcome it. And when we do get to a place of being tired of reliving that and we try to overcome it, temptations just keep running at you to want to stay comfortable, to remain the same. But this is where you have to understand, discipline is easy when you really want something. Change is easy when you really, really want a different way of being, living, thinking, and doing. So as I started to recognize this, now I love being sad. I love being angry. It's a guide and a teacher to help me reparent myself and have compassion for that part of myself that's never been given love. And here's the crazy thing. We get down on ourselves when we fall victim to our overindulgence. And little do we know that the way we treat ourselves, we end up treating ourselves the way that past experiences of people have treated us. So what you resent, you become. What you hate, you become. What you don't heal, you become. So it's like we get down on ourselves, shames ourselves, and hurt ourselves. It's like we're breaking our own heart again and treating ourselves the way that people in the past have treated us, because we don't want to face that pain and overcome it and heal the coping mechanisms to it, that is the temptation that keeps leading you down that reoccurring cycle. So, and that's the crazy thing too, when you realize this, you realize that you end up breaking your own heart over and over again from past pain. But instead, we should get ourselves to a stage of wanting to repair it. And that's where we have to see, do I really want to fall into temptation? Do I really want to keep doing this? Is it really what I desire? Or do I want to actually repair my heart and turn that pain into power? And that's where discipline becomes easy. Because I started to realize for me, I wanted to work on my body more because I had shame all my life of being called fat. And now that when I wake up in the morning, I'd be so tired. But I know that when I get my ass out of bed, I'm ready to go. So I literally force myself. I roll out of my bed and then I go to work out. Now, when it comes to eating, when I know the difference now when I want to emotionally eat or when I'm really hungry. And you're really hungry when your throat starts to bother you, not your stomach. Because your stomach is where your emotions are. So people think that they're really hungry, but it's really that temptation leading them to emotionally eat. Or when it comes to, sadness, when it comes to people hurting us in a friendship way, in a relationship way. So I wanted to add this to the video because this is like the day after I'm doing the video, so don't mind how I look. But another experience that's helped me overcome temptation and see discipline as easy is I remember a time when I lived in an apartment with 2 other people and they weren't home and I was very lonely. And at that time, I really ran away from my emotions, really ran away from how I felt. And I thought I overcame, drinking, smoking, pornography, trying to hang out with random people. But I remember this day where I got a big handle of alcohol because I could drink it within an hour. And I got weed that night. And then also, right when I thought I wanted to do all that stuff, that's when I finally told myself, all right, if you really want to shift in your life, you have to understand why you're so lured by these things that are soothing you. So I remember getting that handle of alcohol, putting it in front of me, putting the weed in front of me, putting pornography on my phone, and, just thinking about, always wanting to be in a relationship. And I looked at all those things and I surrounded them like I was sitting, and then they were like in a circle around me, and I observed myself. I observed my reaction towards reaching to those things and feeling like they were going to soothe me. I felt the nervousness. I felt the uncomfortability. I felt that part of me that was in pain, trying to reach for something, not wanting to feel the pain. And as I observed myself doing that, I just poured out crying. I just cried and cried and cried. And I felt the emotions that were so suppressed within me that I was trying to hide through those coping mechanisms. And when I finally faced that pain, I literally emptied out that whole bottle of alcohol. I literally gave that weed to a friend. I literally stopped watching porn. Not saying that I don't have my moments when I fall into those temptations, but I know now that I don't want them as much as I used to. And now I know how to enjoy them rather than overindulge in them. Because when we overindulge, we run away. And that's where you have that, the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other trying to help yourself understand yourself. That's when I realized at that moment that I shouldn't demonize my wounds in my past, but I also shouldn't chase after earthly things that are only going to feed my ego, that's never going to be satisfied. So I might as well go within my heart and feel the pain that my heart is holding on to and nurture that without needing things outside of me to try to nurture that in a false way. So that's one experience I wanted to share with you guys, so you can understand that discipline and change is easy if you understand how much you want a different result and a different perspective and a different life and a way of being for yourself. when we get down on ourselves when it comes to relationships or friendships, we end up wanting to brush it under the rug because we don't want to cause tension, or we end up overreacting and lashing out instead of really being vulnerable and expressing how you really feel, because you probably were taught that the temptation of being angry and yelling is the way to express yourself and being heard, rather than changing it up and learning from that way and recognizing, I need to express myself in a mature manner so they could really get the gist of what is going on, or really expressing yourself in a manner where it's just like, no matter how uncomfortable I am, I'm going to express my boundaries of what I need and what I deserve, So, it's things like that. So discipline and change is very, very easy when you generally really want it. And if you're not willing to be disciplined, and if you're not willing to actually make changes, to take accountability for your life, then you can't blame where your life is at. And you can't become a victim to it when you are the entertainer of the things that have happened in your life. So, and that really is a sign that you really don't want change. You really don't want more. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just means you're not very clear on what it is you need and what it is you want and who you are at that. And that's where we really got to do much more of a deeper dive and go down the rabbit hole of what makes me who I am, where do these beliefs come from, why do I act this way, and does it serve me and does it not serve me, and what are going to be the different results, the different actions I need to take to get the results I never had, and start recognizing to make those changes. And most of us don't want to make changes or be disciplined because we think it's too hard or it's too scary of the unknown. But really, it's just you lacking yourself, giving yourself permission to say no more of this, no more of that, no more of the lack mindset, no more of needing to drink, no more of needing to overeat, no more of hanging out with just anyone, even if they bring negativity or drama or gossip in my life. Like, no more of that. You are allowed to give yourself permission, but most of us think we need permission in order to make changes. Most of us feel like we're obligated to certain things in life, but really we have to understand that we are the rulers and the controllers of our lives. And when you wake up in the morning, you say, I gotta go to work. You don't have to. Instead, you should say, I get to go to work, because you get to choose to go back to work. You get to choose to do that. We have choices, and we have the willpower to make decisions that are best for ourselves. Most of us don't give ourselves permission to do what we want to do because we believe that we have to have permission or have someone take the wheel or have someone else in control. And that's how we end up becoming not only the victim, but pretty much what's that saying? Oh, I'm going through the motions. It's like you're letting life control you rather than you controlling it. So, you guys, the way to overcome temptation is by really getting honest with yourself. What you're asking for, is it what you really want? And if it is what you really want, then discipline is not hard. If anything, you fall in love with discipline because with repetition, you're creating momentum, and you're able to learn lessons quicker, and you're able to adjust quicker, and you're able to say no when it serves you best. You're able to do the things towards what it is you want at a much rapid pace because you're so clear on that is my authentic truth, and that is what I really desire, and that is what I feel I deserve. So I'm going to make the necessary changes to do that. It's not hard. It's only hard when you're not really clear on what it is you're asking for, what it is you want. And you might not really want it, and that's okay too. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to have all the answers, even though they're all within. But we do need to give ourselves some time to be a little lost, to probably understand why these temptations exist and let them teach you. The reason why cycles keep repeating is because we have yet to learn the lesson. But when you start to awaken that, this is not what I want to keep experiencing, then boom, that's when you got to take accountability and give yourself permission that I'm going to make these changes. But also take accountability when you fall into temptation, because it's only trying to teach you what it is you still need to clear out and give up and let go of. So other than that, you guys, that's what I wanted to share with you on how to overcome temptation, and recognizing discipline and change is easy when you give yourself permission to do what it is you feel is right for you. So if you enjoyed this video and if it brought a little bit of activations, please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification button. And also follow me and my homegirl Jessica on Spotify, Mystifying Reality, and our new podcast. Go check out my Etsy shop and my merch. And until then, you guys, all of that information is down in the description box below, and it will be linked to being redirected to any services that I render that you may need during this time. But until then, you guys, I love you so much. Thank you for being here, and have a blissful day or night wherever you are. Only love.